Welcome. I can even do this. It's the first time we've had a three-person show in a long time. I can do my overlay.
I love it.
Welcome. We're going to have a live mock draft. The people, if anyone's actually watching it, the people will have demanded. They said that they want a live mock Scott Fishbowl mock draft. So we will deliver for the people. And the people have also demanded many other things. And I will be delivering that for the people. The people have said that they want more of me. I will deliver more solo content. That's what they've said. I will deliver it. It will happen. So look for that. I've recorded some shorts. I did my Patreon question show. And if you're here, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell. That's the best way to support the channel. And then, you can always leave a super chat or super sticker, or sign up for my Patreon. I will say, you want in? I mean, the link is right there. I got to fix that. The link is above, so you should be able to get in the chat there. It's like a big party. I appreciate that. Oh, Spence had a question for us. I did not know this was your last name, Spence. Is it your division MFL or sleeper? And what is the strategy that you're implementing because of the division that you're on? Well, I'll start. I actually am in the Krusty Krab division. Go SpongeBob. And it's MFL, which is fine. I didn't care, really. I don't even know if I noticed that. But, I mean, the only difference is that MFL doesn't have required kickers, whereas Sleeper does. So
and you can only start one in Sleeper, but you could start as many as you want in MFL.
I see. I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, it's weird that
you're new every day.
You got the two different platforms playing in the same thing, but slightly tweaked rules. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Okay. What else am I doing? All right, let's go. Happy 4th of July. Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah.
We got 2 slots for the mock, so hop on.
Yeah, well, we're going to start the mock as soon as possible, and then it'll be over. I had, I'm sure this is what everyone wants to hear about, but because it's not what everyone wants to hear about, that means I'm definitely going to make sure to tell you. I had my yearly tirade over the weekend about, so many things, about Twitter, Elon Musk, people not following me, everything going badly. Well, I will say that I have learned that I could be a little nicer, but not that much nicer. I like being myself, and I will try to continue delivering the best content that I can. I will say that I think you will see a new approach. It's the same approach that I've been doing, but even more extreme. If your comment is negative, you probably won't get a reply. I'll probably just block you. I'll just block you, and I'll just move on. If your first comment is about how you hate what I'm doing, what are the odds that you're going to watch anything on this channel? Probably 0. What are the odds you're going to sign up for my Patreon? 0. So I don't need that. So I'll just block you. I've been responding to those. I think that's a bad idea. I don't think I know how to respond to negativity in a measured way. And I don't think that's something I can learn. I just think it's just kind of a no-go for me. A no-go. I don't think it's something I can do. I think if I could have learned how to do it, I would have in the last 4 years. But I noticed over the weekend, I don't think I've improved. I wish I could say I had, but I don't think I have. I don't think I know how to interact with negative comments on Twitter. I don't think I'm able to do that. So I'm just not going to. I'm just going to ignore them or block you or mute you. There's a difference between negative and disagreement. There's a difference between I would have Travis Kelce ranked differently versus your list sucks. Your list sucks is going to get you muted or blocked. I'd have Travis Kelce ranked differently. I'll get a response. Disagreement is not negativity. But once any version of you suck, your list sucks, your content sucks, I'm just not going to engage with that because you're telling me you're not going to support me in the way that I care about. So there's just no point. You've identified yourself as someone who I don't want to engage with, so I just won't. You see what I'm saying? Because I think some people are great. I mean, Scott Fish, for example, great at interacting with negativity. Handles it very professionally. I just don't know how. So if I don't know how, and I'm not going to learn clearly after 4 years, the best approach is just not to. So if you got randomly blocked or muted, I'm sorry. It's better than the alternative because the alternative seems to constantly get me in trouble. So just, when you're interacting with me, try to remember that I have feelings too. I'm pretty easily offended, pretty sensitive, and not going to react well to comments that say that my content sucks or anything about how I look. That's mean. Don't say that. I'm not going to enjoy that. But, I had some time to think about it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Very, very fun. Yes. It's like a big party. I want in. Did you get in? Oh, the muck's almost full. Team 8 is the only one left. If people are getting negative and get blocked, they're damn sure not getting dibs on your upcoming OnlyFans stage with the underwear modeling pics. I will say I am considering it. I will say this, and this person has wanted to remain nameless, but I got a large, and I mean large, donation from someone. It's not related to OnlyFans. I got a large donation from someone who heard what I said last week about wanting to keep the YouTube channel going. I was saying, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I got a rather large donation from someone saying, take the money. I'm not expecting anything in return. Please keep the YouTube channel going. That meant a lot to me. It's part of the reason why I am more committed to keeping the YouTube channel going.
That's sick.
Yeah, rather large donation. Far more than any of my Patreon tiers. So I just appreciate that. That person doesn't want to be named, but I do appreciate that greatly. And I will say that, my Venmo link is available either for, I have an offer where you can buy my spreadsheet through Venmo, or you can also just donate through my Twitter as well. Apparently, the link is almost ready. The mock is almost ready, which sounds delightful.
Yeah, we got all 12 spots filled.
Wow. I love that. Well,
where are you guys drafting in Scott Fishbowl this year?
6, where I put myself.
I picked the 12 spot.
12 spot. I feel like I get crushed in the 12 spot. I didn't like it. I took the 3rd spot.
I took it before the rules came out. So I was kind of expecting Scott to flatten out the scoring, especially for wide receivers. And then I saw the scoring. I was like, I hate the 12 spot.
That's the consensus seems to be. Although 2 years ago, the consensus was the 12 pick, and I feel like the 12 pick didn't do great that year. Consensus seems to be top 3 picks are the place to be, but I don't think it matters all that much, to be honest.
Also, if you want to make a donation, that's my Venmo. I appreciated the very large donation from my generous benefactor last week. Tell me you want to keep the YouTube channel going. This is the Patreon. And I, of course, appreciate anyone who signs up there. I'm just starting to promote my redraft rankings and all that. And I'm working on the YouTube. I will say I'm trying to make these long shows work. They would work better if I had a more consistent lineup of co-hosts every week. That might be something that we're working on. But we'll see about that. I know that's why my show with Cal and Addison was so popular and why Dynasty Trades in 5 is doing so well. So maybe that's something that would be nice if that happened. Let me try to share my screen. You can tell I wasn't expecting to have to stream this, but that's fine. Let's see if this works. All right, how does that? Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, let's get rid of the overlay. There we go.
That's
all
good.
right. Well, the 6th spot. No, I have the 6th spot. What spot? That's strange. Well, I hope everyone is excited for this or watches it later. It'll be great. All right, let's go. All right, so we're getting started. Ryan, did you have any discussion about Scott Fishbowl strategy?
So the strategy is kind of interesting this year because I feel like it tends to be, and I was doing a little bit of research too to see what people are saying, and they seem to be saying go quarterback or tight end very early in this one because of the kind of beefed up scoring, the reduction of the negative points. Sorry, I'm on the board, so I should make a pick here. I'm actually going Kelsey here because I do feel like he produces so much more than anybody else at the position. And it's crazy. In the scoring system, he was actually 4th overall in 2022, if you think he's going to keep it up. But I've been burnt by not going quarterback early in past drafts. So we'll see how it shakes out. See how this one turns out. What do you usually do? Are you usually quarterback heavy to start?
So I've done great. I mean, I'm a 3-time playoff competitor.
That's big.
But I've heard a lot of discussion. I'm in the 6 chat. And I really honestly feel like this is the position you end up in a lot. And I don't know what to do. Like, do I start off with a wide receiver? Do I go, I'm not going to go running back. I don't know. I mean,
I kind of like Justin Herbert here because I feel like the touchdowns are going to come up quite a bit from last year with the addition of Quentin Johnson. Kellen Moore's back in that as the offensive coordinator now. He likes to stretch the field.
Is it 6-point passing touchdown? I don't even
know. It is 6-point passing touchdown.
I think in general, my second tier of QBs is very deep. It's probably deeper than most. So I'm going to be very happy generally with what's left to me in the back half of the first round. So if you're wanting to go QB, it's a viable strategy.
Who do you really like in that second tier quarterbacks?
Well, like I have Watson higher than most do. He's still in my second. You know, I like Lawrence.
What number do you have Watson ranked at?
I believe he is my 7 or 8.
Oh, that's high. So, okay, I have him at 10, which is high. I think higher than some. Well, I think actually it's not. I think 10 is like kind of in the middle. I feel like a lot of people have like a strong take on Watson one way or another. Either he's going to bounce back or he's not. And I just kind of split the difference and put him at 10.
And I think obviously that, you know, behavioral stuff is influencing rankings for people.
Oh, I think so. For sure.
It's not completely football ranking.
We might have our first timeout here.
Uh-oh. That's okay. At this point in the draft, timeout.
It's gonna give you someone good regardless.
So there's no negative. Okay. So Tyler, you should consider having tryouts for people. Like do a 10-minute FaceTime talking to people, getting to know their views of fantasy, try out to get some new regulars to keep the show going. I just wish that there could be a little bit more consistency, but people have lives, so I get it. This is Scott Fishbowl, so this is redraft.
Good question.
Would you trade Lamar, Garrett Wilson, and 24 second for Anthony Richardson, Olave, and a 24 first? There's a lot to think about during a mock draft, but I would.
I got a lot of time, so I could noodle this for a sec. So
Yeah, you
super
take care
flex,
of
tight
that.
end premium. So I like Lamar. Lamar and A-Rich is good. Wilson, Olave are pretty similar. Wilson 24 second for 24 first. I mean, I'm still pretty big on Lamar, and I like Garrett Wilson more than I like Olave, but not by much. So I'd probably lean that side of it, just because you know what you're getting in Lamar Jackson with Anthony Richardson. I think we know what we're going to get in him, but there's still question marks. I mean, at the end of the day, he still wasn't the most efficient passer in college, and I'd rather stick with someone with Lamar and then bringing in some weapons. So I think I'd lean the Lamar side.
I think I would as well. I think I'd rather have Wilson in a 24, like Olave in a 24 first over Wilson in 24 second, but it's tough to also give up Anthony Richardson for Lamar. So
right.
Yeah, I would lean Lamar.
I'm going to make a consensus. Completely agree.
All right.
And as for this, the problem is not that I want new co-hosts. The problem is that I would, how do I say this in a nice way? There isn't a nice way to say it. I would just like it if there was a little more consistency. I like my co-hosts. I will say that Ryan, the one who showed up, is probably a lot of the reason why the show is even continuing at all.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, he's been doing great. And I do want to credit Caleb, even though he's not here today and was kind of sick last week. He has given me a lot of tips on how to SEO and do a little bit of stuff in the description and the title of shows. And I've noticed a significant uptick in views and in some other things since he gave me some of that advice. So I do want to give him credit for that. So it's back to me, and I feel like given who's gone off the board, I'm pretty happy with what I could do here. I could either take Saquon Barkley, but I feel like it's a little risky because of the holdout. So I think I'm just going to not mess around with quarterback too much and take Dak.
Yeah, Dak's where I probably would have gone myself.
I picked Dak in the first round last year, and that was a big mistake. I still made some playoffs. I made it to the semifinals in 2020, and then I think I was out in the first round of the playoffs in 2021, and then I think I had another playoff run this year. I've had a good run in Scott Fishbowl.
You know, the interesting thing is Mark Andrews just went, what are we, how many picks into the second round? And that was only the second tight end off the board in a league that's, giving a full point bonus for each reception and first down the tight end. So that's pretty good value there, I feel like.
Yeah. I feel like also, so I'll be honest with the people. I am behind on Scott Fishbowl anything. I have barely looked at the Scott Fishbowl strategy. The no negative points for me really changes how, and I don't know how you feel about this, but it really changes how I view quarterback. I am not as desperate for quarterback, is why I didn't take a quarterback first. I'm not as desperate for quarterback as I was in the past, because you don't get into the situation of potentially starting negative points in your super flex spot.
And they went if you had a bad quarterback, it was almost worth not playing that quarterback. Like they went negative, like negative 20 points. So, see, I feel like at this point, I do have to pull the trigger on a quarterback because I got to wait a long time for the second one to come back for the next third round, because the third round.
And remember, it's third round reversal.
That's right.
Wants to trade Garrett Wilson for AJ Brown. I would lean AJ Brown in Dynasty. It's close.
It is close. I think I'd lean AJ Brown too. But we are getting to that point where we talked about last week. Like, is AJ Brown starting to get a little bit overrated? which sounds weird to say for such a high tier player.
You know, here's one last thing on this, on the YouTube channel. I will say that, and I've discussed this a lot this week, is there is just no demand for short videos done on the channel by anyone else. There just isn't. There's no demand for it. Everyone says it's bad. And then when I do a solo video, everyone says it's good. So that's telling. The problem is that while I think I'm good at actually doing the video, I am not the best at production. As in coming up with a good idea. Like a lot of the ideas that I come up with are kind of basic. I'm not great at like producing those kind of videos. So what I do think I might be looking for, and potentially this will come from my already pool of co-hosts, but could be someone else, is I'm looking for some sort of producer. A producer. So, or not even a producer, but just someone to kind of give me some ideas of a video that they might want to see happen. And then I'll create it. So I think I'm better at actually reading or just talking. Like my shorts and the last Ask Tyler video were read from scripts, but I don't think people would know they were read from a script unless I admitted it. So that's just something I've thought of. If anyone's interested.
Scripting's tough because like there's few people that I feel like you can tell they're not reading. So it's a good skill set to have if you can.
I'm one of the best, I think. I mean, I don't think people knew that I wrote out all the answers to the Ask Tyler questions on the last video in advance. Like those were all pre-written. So I was ready. That's why there was no pausing. And that's why I got the whole video on to under 10 minutes because there was no wasted time. That's often a complaint I get about these long shows is that there's a lot of wasted time. A lot of nonsense because I tend to go on tangents or talk about nonsense. Some people like that. I don't know. Well,
can I ask you two a quick question? Because I'm just looking at the board here and I'm just kind of seeing how things are shaking out. And as you get into this tier of quarterbacks, are there guys that you're kind of targeting in here? Because I feel like it does fall off pretty quickly at the quarterback position. And like you're looking at like the Daniel Jones, Geno Smith. Rodgers has fallen pretty far, I feel like.
I am waiting at this stage. This is like the tier. I am fully going with the Goffs, Stafford, anybody that I consider a reliable starter. I think we're past the stage of like, oh, I have to get this guy. We're in that like, all right, I can take this guy if I like him. He's okay. But if I'm going to do that, I might as well just wait.
Oh, I agree. Especially without the negatives, like I am not reaching on quarterback here. So Garrett Wilson and then Devontae Adams. It gets to me. This pick feels easy, right?
Yeah.
Stacking is important in a format like Scott Fishbowl. I wouldn't reach for it. You don't need it to win. But I would say that considering that in the last couple of weeks, you need to be so far ahead of everyone else to advance and then move on. I would consider stacking, especially if it's a very high value stack that fell naturally to you, like this one. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb is such a crazy value in round 3.
I have CeeDee Lamb ranked as my wide receiver 3 in redraft.
Yeah, I have him very high too.
So he went at wide receiver 9. I just disagree with that. So I am very happy with this start. Very, very happy, actually.
That's nuts. I cannot believe Lamb fell to 3-7.
Jefferson, Dak Lamb is like, I don't think I'm going to get that good of it. Can we make this the real
Scott Fishbowl?
Yeah, I would love that, but I don't think I'm going to get my wish. But yeah, I don't know. What do we think about this? I just had my Dynasty startup draft, and I had the 6th pick. I went A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra, Devonta Smith, Justin Herbert, London, and Judy. I think I drafted well. Do we think that that's good?
So when AJ Brown, sorry, I'm on the clock, so I'm going to make my pick quick here, though.
Make your
All
pick
right.
and then get back to that.
We're good. Just had my startup draft, 6th pick. AJ Brown, St. Brown, Devonta Smith, Herbert, London, and Judy. I think I drafted well. Superflex?
It's 1 QB.
1 QB? Ah, there we go. I'm not huge. I think Judy's getting overvalued right now a little bit. I don't hate him where that probably fell. I'd be curious to see who's on the board there. I don't like the running back situation, though.
I'm not a fan of Judy at all.
He's so overrated right now. It's crazy how high he is. I mean, we were talking about he's ahead of Ayuk. I feel like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I'm just not I don't think I'm a fan of. I mean, I don't hate him, but I don't have him very high. Like in redraft, I only have him at like 30.
I do like the AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown combo. I think that's solid.
Yeah.
London, I really like.
London is a great value.
I'm curious.
I don't know if this is the order that you picked them in.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. It kind of feels like it is, which if it is, then London in the 5th is great.
So we've talked a little bit about other Scott Fishbowl strategies. What do we think about? Is there anything else you have to add? I know, Ryan, you prepared a lot of notes for this show.
So I feel like I have been getting burned by one of the things that I'm going to try to not do this year is catch the falling knife. And that has been something that has been crushing me where guys they used to be good. They're falling in the draft. And I'm like, it's great value. And then I just get smoked in those middle rounds. And like Ryan Tannehill was a good one last year where I felt like in the 5th or 6th round where I took him, he scored pretty well the previous year or 2 years prior in Scott Fishbowl in the format. So I was like, okay, that might be good value.
He was a 2020 hero for me.
2020 hero, man.
Yeah.
And it just
part of my semifinal team.
And it just killed me. And I did that the year before with like Kenny Golladay and Michael Thomas. Granted, Golladay was late, but those picks just end up being wasted. So my advice would be, although you have to differentiate yourself, if it's an older guy that's kind of fallen off and you're trying to, don't catch that falling knife. It's almost like the stock market where you don't want to.
I've said that many times. Usually not in related to this, but I do say don't catch a falling knife a lot. So.
Yeah.
I love getting Ramondre Stevenson there. I'm very happy with this team, by the way.
Yours is shaking out.
Yeah. It feels unfair. It's because I'm drafting with my redraft spreadsheet in front of me, which gives me a huge advantage. Whereas other people have to like scramble to get the picks in.
Yep.
That's why you should buy my Patreon. I love doing the Patreon. I understand that it's not for everybody, but I appreciate everyone who signs up. It keeps everything else going. So, just consider it. It's patreon.com/fantasyadvice. Picking 5th in SFB. Who's the pick after Kelsey, Mahomes, Hurts, and Allen? Yeah, those are the consensus top 4 that I've seen pretty much in every draft.
Yep.
And then after that, I think Burrow, Lamar, Jefferson, and Chase are kind of the next group.
I think so too. I think you nailed it. I think that's it. Did you say Herbert in there or no? Because I do still like Herbert.
No, I don't have Herbert in there.
Oh.
Herbert, I would have after Chase. Herbert, I just have some concerns. I have a little bit more concern, I think.
What causes the concern? Just out of curiosity.
Well, just that he doesn't have Jamar Chase like Burrow does. I'm just not sure that with his current weapons, he's going to break the scoring in a way that warrants a 1st round pick. Like even in 6-point passing touchdown, I only have Herbert as my quarterback 7.
Well, he only had like 25 last year, right?
I know, but he has to break, since he doesn't really run, he has to break fantasy to be a league winner. And I don't know. I'd rather draft Jamar Chase, who I think is more likely to be that breaker.
Yeah.
I don't see Herbert as a breaker. I think Herbert's going to be really good. And Herbert is a strong buy for me in Dynasty because I think this year he could be very good. Very good. Like he could be quarterback 6 or 5. But if he finishes quarterback 6 or 5 and you draft him in the first round, that's not good enough. He has to finish top 3 to make that pick worth it. So that's why I'd go to Jamar Chase over him. I think the value of a replacement's higher.
I think that's a good lesson too. Like for Scott Fishbowl is like, think there's 3,300 people in this, right? You have to differentiate yourself. You need that point breaker, like you just said, to be able to stand out.
Yeah, I just am not sure that the ceiling is there with Herbert. Oh, this year. I will say, in Dynasty, Herbert is one of my favorite buys because next year, everything could come into focus for him in a way that, with Quentin Johnston getting into the offense and then keeping one of Mike Williams or Keenan Allen and then getting another player in there to replace whichever one they get rid of. All right, it's up to me. So here, I feel like my choices are kind of a little limited. I could take a running back. Tight end looks picked through in a way I'm not going to go for.
Quarterback, just blew through at that turn.
Quarterback, I just feel like there's nobody really worth going for. So it's close, but I feel like the pick should be a running back because there's only a few running backs left that I think have real value. So I'm going to take the one that I think is the safest. And Aaron Jones.
Who are you between there, Jones and who?
Walker. But I lean toward Jones over Walker. I put it on the show sheet. There's a lot of Zach Charbonnet hype. I'm not saying that Zach Charbonnet is going to take. There goes Walker. So I'm not going to say that Zach Charbonnet is going to take the job from Kenneth Walker, but I'm concerned that Zach Charbonnet is going to be involved enough to move Kenneth Walker down to the mid to low RB2 range. And that's a concern for me.
Yeah, and I think at this point, you're looking at like who can outperform that ADP, right?
Also, we're doing full PPR this year in Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah.
So that gives me a little more concern on Walker and a little bit of a better opinion on Aaron Jones.
I think that's fair.
So I'm filling out my team quite nicely. I have 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a quarterback. I will say I've noticed over the years in Scott Fishbowl, you can fill that running back 2 spot as you go. Or extra running backs. So I did draft 2 running backs in this one. It's not always, usually wouldn't be my strategy. But they came at values this time. But oftentimes I've had success backfilling that. I drafted Ramondre Stevenson in the 30s last year. And Jamal Williams outside the top 40. I had a good year last year too.
Are you scared about Mixon anything with suspension?
I'm not touching Mixon.
Yep.
That's one lesson I've learned. So in Scott Fishbowl, the kind of players I don't draft are the ones where something really bad could happen between now and then. Mixon is on that list. I need a discount to draft Mixon.
But to be fair, at this stage, you're getting a pretty big discount on what Mixon can give.
Well, the problem is
if
that
he
Mixon
does play
is bad.
the full year, then whoo.
There's an article that is coming out soon for DLF that'll denote how bad he really was. It's very bad. He was very, very bad. Both for fantasy and real life. 20% of his fantasy points came in that one game.
That's pretty
the rest of the time, he was not usable. And I don't think he's going to improve. He's been inefficient in 5 of his 6 seasons in the NFL. One good one. And the other 5 inefficient. So he's someone I just feel like the running backs, wide receivers, I always say they kind of decline a little more gradually. It's like a nice little trip on a lazy river. Running backs, it's like there's a cliff and then you fall off and both legs are broken and you can't get up. It's not gradual. Todd Gurley went from, being one of the best running backs in the league to being irrelevant in the blink of an eye. And Mixon, to me, is well past that point. I think he's bad. And I'll pass on him. I don't want to draft bad players.
Now, here's the problem. I don't have a running back now. I'm sitting
Well, this
there
is
at
why I'm happy I got Stevenson in the fourth round.
6'2".
I don't have to deal with this.
And it's a bunch of guys that I just don't really like, but I feel like I'm almost inclined to pull the trigger on Mixon just because of what the upside could be. But this is the trap that I get into every year, right?
I just don't do it. I just fade running back. I got Stevenson at running back 35 and Jamal Williams at 46 last year.
Yeah.
And it was not surprising. I did very well. Who can you reasonably get for Deshaun Watson in Dynasty? An outfield player. I assume you mean non-quarterback. I would go for, if I'm trading Deshaun Watson in Dynasty, my goal would be to get like Bryce Young plus. Bryce Young plus or CJ Stroud plus. That would be what I would go for.
Bernard, that's where I was really close to pulling the trigger on DJ Moore. That was, you just saw some Washington homerism come through. Me taking Terry McLaurin there.
Wouldn't it be funny if I actually drafted Joe Mixon now?
This is all just a ploy.
It was all a plot. Yeah, it was all a very secretive plot. No, I'm not going to do that. I think that, you want to get players that I think have upside to really make a difference. And looking at the board, it's kind of tough. But I don't know.
Do you like any quarterbacks yet?
Not really.
Or are you still going to ride it out?
Yeah, I think I'm good on those. I'm going to go with, a little bit out of character for me.
Wow.
But in this league, there's a 0.25 points per carry. And it's rare to have a wide receiver who benefits from points per carry. But Debo is the one who gets enough carries that it might make a difference of him versus similar players in his range. So that's why I decided to go with Debo.
That's sneaky. I like that.
Yeah. It just slightly pushes him above some of the other players.
Now, in a non-carry league, are you taking Debo or Ayuk?
Debo, but barely. In Dynasty, I'd rather have Ayuk because he's 2.5 years younger and doesn't have the injury history.
Right.
Herbert has more as associate. Oh, I like Herbert. I just wish he does not have Jamar Chase. He doesn't have that kind of weapon. And without that kind of weapon, it's hard to break fantasy. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had Kelsey and Hill in the year that he broke fantasy. You got to have that like elite weapon. And that's what I think Herbert is lacking to really hit the upper echelon. But he's certainly capable of doing it. And I hope that the Chargers continue to build around him and set him up for success because I absolutely think he has it in him.
I mean, the only interesting thing about Herbert is he had the rib and shoulder injury last year, non-throwing shoulder, but he still had that injury. He had only 7 games where he had Mike Williams and Keenan Allen at receiver together. Now they have the two of them healthy-ish. We'll say healthy-ish because those guys always get hurt. They draft Quentin Johnston. I feel like Kellen Moore coming over might give him a little bit more explosive in offense. We've seen what numbers Dak has put up in some of his elite years under Kellen Moore. I feel like he's right at that tier of me, but I hear what you're saying of not having enough to break the points in the first round, and I think that's a very strong point.
Especially at 6.
Yeah.
Overall. Seems a little early.
Chase feels like the better pick there for that, like you said, the break the fantasy perspective.
So I filled my quarterback, running backs, and wide receivers. So that's good.
And I still haven't drafted a freaking running back.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna speed it up a little. 30 seconds.
Uh-oh.
30-second clock. That'll speed it up. Otherwise, I think this will take quite a period of time. But yeah, if you're enjoying this, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell. You can always sign up for my Patreon or donate at the Venmo link that I provided. Yeah, super chats, super stickers, all that. And I hope everyone's having a good July 4th.
I feel like July 4th was a lot more fun in my early 20s. It's like my favorite day of the year.
What happened now?
Well, when you got the two kids and the wife, it's a little bit different of a party experience than single 21.
Well, how old are you now?
Me? Late 30s now, man.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. Aging out of the fun zone.
Yeah. Huh. I wonder what I'm gonna do when it gets back to me.
I have a
feel
guy
like I'm
that
fading tight end.
You are fading tight end.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm fading tight end a lot this year. Well, I was actually deciding between Deebo Samuel and another player who made it back to me, so I'm gonna take Christian Watson. I love Christian Watson. I have him a wide receiver 20 this year. If it weren't for the format, I would have taken him over Deebo. Now, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I will say, I love Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I have him higher than most. I have him in redraft at wide receiver 32, but I still wouldn't have taken him here.
Where do you have the other two Seattle wide receivers?
I have DK Metcalf at 15 and Tyler Lockett at 35.
Okay.
Oh. All right. Now let me put a situation to you here. You're sitting where I'm sitting. You haven't drafted a running back. You're going, oh shoot, what do I do? Are you looking at the running backs here to just fill out some starters?
Not.
Yeah.
I'd rather not. You can get them later. I mean, I won with Ramondre Stevenson and Jamal Williams. And then in previous years, I won with Jeff Wilson.
So I'm taking one that I feel like has fallen because of his situation. And you know I like him. So
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
I am worried about Dalvin Cook. Like, very worried. I'm very worried that he hasn't been picked up.
He has multiple offers, supposedly, but
allegedly, but that could just be released by his agent to drum up interest. I'm very concerned about Dalvin Cook. What do we think about your draft from the 11 spot? Well, let's take a look. Starting with Trevor Lawrence, I like that at 11. Jonathan Taylor, I probably would have rather had Eckler or Bijan. So, and honestly, probably Lamb, who I picked a round and a half later. I don't know about that one. Josh Jacobs at 3-2 is fine. Wouldn't have been what I would have done. I like Anthony Richardson at 411. If Ramondre hadn't been there, I might have taken him at 406. That's great. Kittle at 502. I actually don't mind the value on him there, even though I've kind of been fading Kittle this year. The value there is not bad. And then Ingram at 611, I hate. I think that's way overdrafted. And then Pittman at 702. I'm pretty low on Michael Pittman this year. And by pretty low, I mean dropping and dropping and dropping. As I'm starting to realize just how bad his situation is. It's tough. You know? It's very tough. Rookie quarterbacks just don't support high-end fantasy weapons, let alone rookie quarterbacks who are primarily running. So, it's my turn, and I'm not ready, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to take my chances. It's Scott Fishbowl, so you want to win, and you win by taking risk. And Alvin Kamara at this point is risk that I'm totally willing to take in this format. Right? I mean, if Alvin Kamara plays, he's still a top 20 running back.
Where I shied away, and I'm kind of like contradicting myself here from some of my other picks that I've made, is I do feel like if I take him in Scott Fishbowl, he's going to get suspended, and it's going to be a big one.
Oh, but that's not how it works, and you know it.
I know.
I just feel
the risk reward is huge there, because look at the running backs he's going after, and you're talking about like who in this position can be in that top tier and has a chance to be there, and
also,
I feel like he's one of the only ones.
If he gets suspended, it's going to be at the beginning.
Yep.
And in Scott Fishbowl, you have a deep roster. You can afford. It's not like a regular redraft. I'm more likely to draft players like that in Scott Fishbowl. You have 22 spots, not 15 like a regular redraft. You can afford to burn a spot on a 6-game suspended player in Scott Fishbowl because the waivers are so thin. You can hold that player. Whereas, like, I held Christian McCaffrey for all of like 2 seasons and he never played, and I still made the playoffs both times.
Yep.
So you can afford the spot. That's why I'm more likely to draft him. Whereas in a regular redraft, the problem is that you need that spot and then you get in a tough spot. So, yeah. What if Dalvin Cook goes to New England? That's not a good thing. That's like the worst landing spot possible. Right?
And it seems like it could be a legit one. That's the problem. I think that's the Vegas favorite right now is New England, which is very surprising.
I think New England and Miami are tied in Vegas. I would say it's the worst spot, right? I mean, I don't see a world in which Dalvin Cook comes in and overtakes Ramondre Stevenson. And then the second running back in New England is not exciting me. Because it's going to be a 1-2 there with Stevenson as the 1 and Cook as the 2.
Right.
How good is that player going to be? This is not the Brady offense. And Ramondre Stevenson is good in the... Oh, fuck.
Did you auto pick?
No.
No.
That's actually who I want.
You got it in. No, I didn't even see you pick before I asked that question. I like that.
Oh, I think it's fine for the real life team. I actually think it's not a bad move. Pierre Strong is not good enough to be their RB2. I think it's a good move for the real life team, but it would hurt in fantasy. It's not a good landing spot for him. I would not have Dalvin Cook as a top 30 running back in
I'd probably have
right
him
now. I have
like
his brother James
20,
at 30. Right now, I have his brother James at 30, and I have David Montgomery at 29, and I'd easily prefer either of those to Cook.
Yeah.
In New England. Cook in Miami would be around 20.
That's his best landing spot, I feel like.
Even on the Jets, you can tell yourself the story because if Breece Hall doesn't come back, then the opportunity's there. But there's nothing wrong with Ramondre Stevenson right now. It's hard wanting to predict an injury that hasn't happened yet. It's easier to predict an injury that has already happened. I agree with that. And that's why I took Greg Dulcich there, because I'm kind of running out of spots in my flexes and I needed a tight end, and there are not many left that I think are going to do much of anything. So he has some upside at least. Jordan Love. That's an interesting one.
Do you see the quarterbacks going this late the way they have? Because I have been in leagues where like there's 12,
in Scott Fishbowl,
14.
It goes wildly differently depending on the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was thinking about it, I might have taken a quarterback with my last pick. But I wasn't really. It's hard under the time pressure.
Yeah. The 30-second time pressure is not anything you would face in Scott Fishbowl. I've actually made
Scott
2
Fishbowl,
or 3.
You have hours.
I've made 2 or 3 bad picks that I would not like. If I go back, I would not.
Hours to decide.
Terry McLaurin would not have been my pick there.
Jahan Dotson was a player I was hoping to get back. But
yeah, that's a good one.
Happens. Yeah, so the tight end scoring, there's an extra whole point per reception. The tight ends are worth a lot.
And first downs. They get a whole point on the first downs.
I know. All right. Well, I would have considered taking Kenny Pickett, but with him gone, it's tough. The quarterbacks are just so brutal. But I think that, at this point,
You're kind of screwed if you don't get one, though, right?
I know.
You almost kind of have to.
And that's part of the thing about the scoring in Scott Fishbowl. You have to have QBs in your flex. I mean, you're at a
This
big
year you
disadvantage
do,
if
yeah.
you don't.
This year you do.
That's actually why I went Purdy this last round, because I was like, if anything happens to Tua or Rodgers with this team, I really don't like my team right now. Like, there's a couple picks that
I'm
I
okay
hate.
with getting Jimmy Garoppolo there. It's not maybe who I wanted, but there are ways to find quarterbacks. Yeah, unfortunately,
You
it's
talked
not
about
Dynasty.
his foot exploding, though.
Yeah.
Oh, what if it doesn't explode?
Yeah, you got to hope it doesn't there.
Yeah, what if it doesn't explode?
But it's kind of the same with Purdy. It's like, all right, is his elbow good? Is it going to be all right? I mean, we're at that stage where all the QBs are like question marks, basically.
But that's my third. That's why I felt okay with that.
Yeah. And I do like him as a third QB.
I don't mind stacking multiple quarterbacks on the roster. I've had teams where I've had 4 or 5, and it's been fine.
Yep.
I drafted Jimmy Garoppolo in the 17th round last year, and that was paying off for a while. Elijah Moore is a good sleeper for sure.
I'm just such an Elijah
You could have
Moore
taken
hater.
Mixon instead of McLaurin.
I know. That's probably what I would have done in hindsight.
Yeah. Samaje Perine. I like that a lot. He's moving up my board. I have him at 35. But he's definitely someone who could gain a lot of value.
The question is, other than Alvin Kamara, if you look back at Sean Payton's running backs, it's a pretty ugly list year by year by year. You get like 1 year of Pierre Thomas, maybe it might have been, that had like one good year.
Jameson Williams is an interesting one.
That was my next pick.
I think in this format, though, that's too much to wait on. I'm probably not going to wait 6 weeks for someone you can't even start when the week he gets back. That's probably too much. He's probably someone I'll pass.
And that's different than your Kamara pick, because your Kamara pick, you don't know if he's going to miss.
Well, also, you don't know. And also, the other thing with Kamara is the week he comes back, I feel like I'm comfortable starting Kamara that week.
100%.
And that's kind of like the Hopkins Watson from last year. I actually took.
Well, Watson, remember when the drafts were happening, we did not know this. I actually took Watson in my draft, and it didn't pay off. Yeah. Might sound odd coming from me to take Watson. So at this point, with no negatives, I'm going to take the only quarterback left who I think you'll be able to start at any point. Speaking of Hopkins, just in case DeAndre Hopkins goes there. Maybe he'll fix Ryan Tannehill. But I've had good luck with Ryan Tannehill and Scott Fishbowl before. Desmond Ridder, I am very worried, is just benched. I actually think Ryan Tannehill starts more games this year than Desmond Ridder. Yeah.
So now I'm getting into the taking the rookies zone.
Zay Flowers. I like that. I like that pick. Shoot for the moon, right?
At this point, I mean, you don't know who that number 1 is going to be right now, so.
No, you don't. Oh, Michael Thomas.
That's a guy who has
burned
me so much, though.
He's burned me so many times, but I get wanting to go back to him.
It's getting pretty thin here now.
Yep. It's tough. Cole Kmet, Alan Lazard. I'm not expecting much from Cole Kmet. And Alan Lazard even less so.
Lazard was the intrigue of the potential good weekly matchup stacking with Rodgers. But I actually hate that pick because I just realized someone that I should have drafted over him, and I want to immediately reverse course.
Sam Howell. Sam Howell was on my list.
That's a good pick there.
Yeah. So at this point, I will say that I find it hard to believe that this player will ever do anything useful. But if you're wrong, if somehow it's wrong, he runs and there's no negative points for interceptions. So we'll take our chances.
If Brock Purdy's elbow isn't healthy.
Yeah, I really don't like Trey Lance, but I just think he has more potential like value above replacement than anyone else that I could have picked instead. I have a team that's very strong at the other positions.
Very.
I mean, starting with Jefferson and Lamb and having a higher quarterback in Prescott is hard to do with Ramondre and Jones and Kamara and Debo and Christian Watson. It's tough to actually have that kind of depth in this format. Rashad Bateman. No thanks for me on Rashad Bateman. Michael Mayer. I don't hate the pick, but I'm not sure I'd be willing to wait that long. It's going to take a while.
I just don't. There's something I don't like about him, and I don't know if it's a personality thing or what, but I also don't like guys that don't separate well. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
At this point, I have Jefferson, Lamb, Debo, and Christian Watson. There aren't that many more wide receivers I see as being worthy of a pick at all. Because it's interesting, you can get wide receivers off of waivers in Scott Fishbowl. And actually do fine. I started Chris Moore last year on my playoff team. See, I'm seriously.
Was that the 1 week that he? I feel like I streamed him because of one of your posts that you had online, actually.
Yep.
That week.
Well, yeah. So there's a couple of wide receivers I think have enough upside to make them worth taking, but there's not many left.
No.
There's not many left. Most of the players you want it because the leverage is all at running back.
It is 100%.
Algier. All right, so there's one running back left. There's no quarterbacks left really that I think are worth drafting. I think we covered them all, but there's one running back I think that has some value unless he was taken already. I didn't notice. Oh yeah, he was taken already. Oh well.
Would you look at Miller here because you have Kamara?
No, I'm actually gonna be a little cute.
All right.
I mean, he was good last year. But yeah, it's tough. Tank Bigsby, I like in this kind of format where you want to get that value at running back. But yeah, I took Jerick McKinnon. I kind of like maybe you'll be able to put him in your lineup if Alvin Kamara is suspended. I'll be able to put him in early on. I wouldn't waste your picks on quarterbacks that are not actually going to play. I've noticed over the last 3 years in Scott Fishbowl that those quarterbacks tend to get dropped.
Very quickly, too, I feel like. As soon as people need that player to drop for the waiver wire.
So, like, I'm probably not going to be selecting, like, Will Levis.
Yeah.
Or Jacoby Brissett. Or Taylor Heineke. Or
especially these rounds. You need these guys for bye weeks or injuries.
Ezekiel Elliott was a player a little early for me, but a player I would have considered at the right price, just in case he found a team. Tyler Boyd. That's interesting.
See, I'm going to stack Roshan and Foreman here in the hopes of I get whoever becomes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you missed out on it entirely.
It's going to be Herbert.
I do think so.
I do too.
Yeah.
I'm with
Sky Moore is one of the receivers on my list who had enough upside to be worth drafting. There's a universe in which he's the one who gets the most PPR upside in that offense. That's not the universe I think we live in, but the universe exists, which means that he's worth drafting.
Especially at this point.
I have a couple of names on my wide receiver list that I think might not even be drafted at all. Yeah, I actually didn't even think of this. He's a great tight end to pick because he gets the points per carry and the extra PPR. That's actually really smart, and I might have to consider that when I'm doing my own drafts. That was very smart.
Who's that, Hill?
Yeah. Raheem Mostert, I probably would have skipped. So at this point, I could either look at tight end or a backup tight end or a running back. I think I'm going to take one of my favorite handcuffs.
Do you guys think any Miami running back actually can make a difference this year?
Only A-Chain of the ones that they have.
Yeah. Agree with the ones they have. If Dalvin Cook goes there, and I think Tyler was saying early 20s, I agree with that for Cook. I think he can be very usable if he ends up in Miami. But I'm starting to get, to your point, scared of some of the names I'm hearing for landing spots for Cook.
I kind of liked getting Jaylen Warren, though, because the winners in Scott Fishbowl, the league winners, are always the backup running backs who,
And he's one of the few that if he gets in, he can play high quality, right?
Yeah,
like he's
you
not
know
just...
that if Najee Harris gets injured, you can play Jaylen Warren for sure. It was like Samaje Perine last year.
Yep.
So Jaden Reed, interesting Jaden Reed. He's a player who I was higher on before. Not anymore. In redraft, I think I'll pass on Jaden Reed. I think it's pretty clear that Jaden Reed is not going to... It's second round rookie wide receivers don't tend to hit in their rookie year for fantasy. Sometimes they hit in real life and they gain dynasty value, but they don't tend to be fantasy relevant. Christian Watson, it took him 10 games to do it. Jaden Reed is going to start off the season as the wide receiver 3 behind Romeo Doubs. So I'm probably not picking Jaden Reed in a redraft. Dynasty, I still like Jaden Reed, but in a redraft, I think I'll pass on him.
Yeah.
In favor
I'm
of others.
very concerned about the Green Bay offense this year.
I like Chase Brown, I will say. I like Chase Brown, that last pick that was just made. I like that one.
Smart.
He's someone who, in this format, when you're picking in July, he has a lot of potential to gain value between July and September. He's someone who should have been higher on my list. He also has potential to lose value, I suppose. I mean, they could sign someone else to add to the backfield.
That's a smart, heady football player, though. I really like Chase Brown overall.
Jonathan Mingo. Kind of like that one, too.
Yeah, that's why I should have gone last pick. I had him in my queue.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that he's also kind of getting it off to a slow start with a rookie quarterback, other veterans on the depth chart. I'm worried it's going to be a little bit slow, but you can hold him and wait. Jaden Reed, I'm just worried doesn't get there until 10 weeks in. But Jonathan Mingo, I think the path is a little easier. Dawson Knox is a good pick.
Yeah. Even Nico Collins is a little bit sneaky there.
I'm kind of good on Nico Collins. I think the offense is going to be bad. And I think he's my highest ranked Texans wide receiver, and I have him at 55. So I'm just kind of good on passing on the Texans receivers entirely. There's Romeo Doubs, who I was talking about. He was on my list. At this point, there are still some running backs. There are still some tight ends. I'm debating what's kind of more valuable, but I think I'm just going to take a wide receiver that I do like, and I don't think is going to come back given where he is in the ADP.
Yep.
I have Wan'Dale Robinson.
Seriously considering him.
Yeah, I have him as my top Giants wide receiver.
I think that's fair. Especially with the way they were using him before he kind of got a little nicked up last year.
I'm worried, though, that he's just kind of lost the role. Tajay Spears is a good pick.
That was my next pick. That's who I wanted queued.
Yeah, I don't even have Tajay Spears in my redraft rankings. That's probably a mistake.
And if
that was a
Henry, anything happens with the age there,
Trey
that could be a nice
McBride
pick.
is a pick that I like as well.
Do you feel like McBride's a better real life tight end than fantasy tight end though? Like
Yes,
I worry.
but this is very late.
Yeah.
Okay, so Marvin Mims is someone I like a lot, but I worry is going to be a little bit of a wait.
Yep.
Rashee Rice, I actually was on my list. Jalen Hyatt was not. He's someone I wouldn't bother with. He's buried on the Giants depth chart. Yeah, I agree. You want to get those higher upside wide receivers. And I should have, Chase Brown was someone who should have been on my list. Josh Downs, he's also on that list of players I wouldn't bother. I think he is so far away from being, he hasn't participated in anything. He's the wide receiver 3 at best to open week 1. And that's if he does that.
That staff really likes him though. That's the only reason in round 16 I took him.
The problem is it doesn't matter. You're carving up a pie of 3,600 passing yards. You're lucky if they can support Michael Pittman. No one else there is going to be usable at all. And it's unfortunate. I wrote about him as like one of the worst landing spots of anyone in the draft. He went so much later than I think anyone expected and went to a disastrous landing spot. And I feel like no one was talking about it. Okay, I'll just in case they don't sign Dalvin Cook, I drafted Jeff Wilson. Take a chance. He was good last year in that offense.
I have a lot of rookies that I've taken the back half.
But yeah, for me, Josh Downs is not going to be relevant.
Yeah.
I'm very low on him in Dynasty too. I'm totally out.
Who do you like as their second? You like Alec Pierce as the 2?
It doesn't matter. If Anthony Richardson passes for 3,600 yards, the second is irrelevant.
Yeah. There we go. Will Levis.
I just wouldn't have drafted Will Levis. I just don't think he's going to be a worthwhile use of your pick in Scott Fishbowl. But without the negative, it makes me more likely to put him in. But yeah, I just think the Colts offense is going to be so run heavy.
The problem is at this stage, I feel like Fournette that's if he
they were
signs.
significant. Josh Downs. So I rank 82 wide receivers for redraft. Josh Downs is not one of them. To give you an idea of how low he is.
No, I was talking Levis before. Like at this point, it's like Gainwell, Hubbard, Levis. Like the board is weak, you know. So
Zach
anyone
Evans
that could see, yeah, Zach Evans is interesting.
I don't think I would have drafted him, but there are a couple other players I like a little bit better. But he's on the list.
So just as a general kind of strategy questions, at this stage, are you generally prioritizing, call it RB3s who might have a chance, or let's say wide receiver 3s, who could make a difference because the lineups are so deep?
Oh, definitely running backs. You can get startable wide receivers off of waivers in Scott Fishbowl. Or kickers. If you're on MFL and you can flex kickers.
Yeah.
So,
the kickers is interesting with the 3.3 points per extra point now, too.
Ooh, DJ Chark was on my list.
See, some of these guys get buried. This is why it's good to do these mocks. Is some of these guys get buried in the ADP.
Well, at this point, I feel like we're out of players I really like, so I'm going to take a shot at a tight end with some minimal upside, I guess. I don't really want him, but I don't really like Josh Downs, and I don't really like Alec Pierce. So a tight end doesn't have to do that much to be relevant. And
because of the bonus points.
They're raving about Jelani Woods in a way they're not about either Alec Pierce or Josh Downs. Everything about Alec Pierce and Josh Downs has been bad.
What's the deal with Josh Downs? Because I haven't paid too much attention. You said he hasn't
He's
showed
not
up
healthy.
to anything? Oh, he's not healthy.
He's still not healthy. He hasn't participated in anything. And that's not good. For a third round rookie, that's bad. It's very bad. Obviously, the Dynasty community liked Josh Downs a lot more than the NFL did. The NFL was kind of like, no thanks. Kareem Hunt, I might have picked if he got back around to me.
Yeah, Hunt's another guy that can give some value.
So there's literally like no one left that I want to draft.
Yeah, that's what I'm going through. Like Ty Chandler, I'm like, all right, if Madison gets hurt.
Yeah.
Although they have Dwayne McBride now too.
There's almost no value to me in Ty Chandler.
Very well-rounded back though. So something did happen.
Ty Chandler is older than Alexander Madison. Somehow.
Old rookie.
Israel Abanikanda is not a bad choice in case something happens to Cook. Not Cook, Hall. I don't hate that choice.
That's a wild stat about Ty Chandler, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Luke Musgrave was on my list. Tank Dell. I just think Tank Dell is going to take a while to see the field. Man, there's really no one left that I want to pick. But since we're forced to, I guess tight end is the hardest position to find ones to stream. You can't. It's not like wide receiver. So there just aren't that many. So I'll take Noah Fant.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. There goes Alec Pierce, who we talked about.
See, one thing that I'm going to mention here is you will see a lot of these guys that we've been taking the last 2 rounds get pushed even further down during the Scott Fishbowl draft because we don't have kickers up here, right?
Yeah, we don't.
And
I just figured
think
that wasn't the best use of the people.
No, definitely not. Just want to make that comment though, that these are probably your last 2 rounds of guys.
Yeah, you're probably not seeing a lot of these players because kickers are being picked, as they should be.
Now, is this a spot where you're this late that you protect maybe your backup quarterbacks or anything like that, or do you not even touch them?
Don't think it's worth it because if there aren't
no
that many
negative points though, so that's the only one thing is they're useful.
Are they? Those types of quarterbacks are often so even without the negative points, just don't score that much. It's tough. There are a few backup quarterbacks that I think are worth taking. Mike White is maybe one of them, but he's one of the only ones that you can actually start. And those guys always get dropped. Yeah, I just didn't feel like including kickers was going to.
No, that was the right move.
Yeah, I don't think it was interesting from a YouTube perspective. Well, there's only one player left, I believe, that I think has any path to any relevance at all. And that's Mr. Van Jefferson, who is ranked inside the top 40 for the fantasy footballers. For what that's worth.
Really?
Yeah.
That is interesting.
But I think we can
Ooh, I got one more pick left though. Let me get one more in there.
Yeah, we'll to account for the lack of kickers, we'll wrap it up at 20 rounds. 2 rounds worth of kickers, I think is about right.
I'm snagging this guy just in case Josh Jacobs
Nakua
actually holds out.
Zamir White, yeah, he was on my list, but I don't think he's very good.
It's one of those things where with the points per carry, if something happens to Josh Jacobs, you don't have to be necessarily good to get points in this late in the game, I feel like. So I'm okay with that. And then I'm gonna pull one more trigger here.
Gardner
Darnold.
Minshew and Sam Darnold are not bad. Those are players I think that if they went in, they would be usable. Hunter Henry's a good choice.
Yep.
There's no guarantee that Mike Gesicki is ahead of him.
I don't think he should be. I think Henry's the better tight end all around.
Chase Claypool. Gross.
I feel like I can't touch Chase Claypool.
I just can't. I can't do it.
He's a guy I took last year, and as soon as I made the pick, I was like, what a stupid pick. It was way earlier than we just took him here.
Yeah.
So
I assume this guy probably wouldn't make my roster by the time we actually played, but just in case Saquon Barkley decides not to show up, I actually like a lot. I liked Eric Gray as a prospect for some things, so I don't hate it as a possible choice, but yeah, it's gross at this point. I would suggest taking a kicker or two, because without the negative points per kickers, there's no risk.
and if you're in a sleeper league, remember you have to take a kicker because there's
well,
the
in a
slot.
sleeper league you have to. But I would say also it's a good position to take, but not take early. Not take early because the kickers are very flat. So it's good to have some potentially very late, but I wouldn't reach on a kicker. I think people are going to reach on kickers. I would take some, later on.
If you're forced to take one in sleeper, where do you start pulling the trigger on that?
I'm not drafting on sleeper, so I haven't really thought about that. But for those who are, I would say still not in the first. I mean, I was still drafting players I thought were important through 12 rounds. So round 13 at a minimum.
Yeah.
Probably more like 15 or 16. I'd like to thank Mr. Wonderful for his donation to help Tyler keep his YouTube channel up. Thank you. And thank you also to Mr. Wonderful. Are you going to break down each draft? No, I'm not. No, I'm good. I don't think that people want that. I don't think that's super actionable. I think people want to break down players and then draft them for themselves, more so than break down every draft.
But if you have a question on your team that you just drafted, throw it in the comments.
Yeah, or throw it in the comments of the video and I can look at it.
Yeah.
Later. But yeah, what did we think of this?
I'm very thankful because, to your point, I haven't actually done too much on this.
This is the first one I've done. This is my first mock.
Same, and I feel like I kicked off a lot of rust. Like I feel like I needed this.
So
I would have been in a lot of trouble if I just went into this cold. So I'm actually very thankful because I made mistakes, and that's why mocks are good. You make your mistakes here.
It's going to be
and
so
I'm
much
just like, it's gross.
easier when you're not under a 30-second knife.
I'm like trying to look under
60 seconds. I'm obviously very happy with my team. Dak Prescott, Ramondre, Aaron Jones, Jefferson, Lamb, Debo, Christian Watson, Kamara, Dulcich at tight end. And then, I have quarterback backups in Garoppolo, Tannehill, and Lance for upside. And then that last flex between McKinnon, Warren, Wandale. Maybe I'll be able to fill it. You're always going to have some ugly lineup spots in Scott Fishbowl. I wouldn't worry about that. In a real draft, I would have drafted a couple of kickers because that last flex, those last two flexes, especially when you're trying to just accumulate points to get into the playoffs, are often you're going to want those kickers. In the playoffs, you got to be so high, especially near the end, that you don't want to start kickers. What's your guys' opinion of Team 5? Let's see Team 5. So I started with Joe Burrow. I don't mind that. Mark Andrews at 208. I'm not sure I've decided on what I think about that, but it seems okay. Waddle at 308, I feel like is not what I would have done. I would have taken Amon-Ra at the very least. And then Gibbs, I like. I would have rather had Ramondre, who I picked, but I like Gibbs. Walker, I don't mind. I was fine with that. It would be between Walker and Allen for me at that, Keenan Allen. And then Godwin at 605 is fine. JSN I thought was a little bit of a reach, but not the worst. I would have rather had Treylon Burks. Christian Kirk at 805 was a good value. Quentin Johnston, I probably would have taken Pickett, but that's who you got anyway. So good job there. Laporta at 1108 is fine. Maybe a bit of a reach. I like Sam Howell at 1205. It's good value. Tank Bigsby was a good pick. If I had remembered, I would have picked him. Then Raheem Mostert. I'd prefer Jeff Wilson. Tajay Spears, I wish I had on my list. That was a mistake on my part, but you live and learn. The rest of the draft, kind of meh. It wouldn't have been players I would have picked. But other than that, it seems pretty
To be
good.
fair, everybody's rest of the draft is math at that point.
Yeah.
it gets
I
ugly.
agree with that. All right, I'll take that down. I'll put the link. The link will be in the show description. But is there anything else we want to say?
Just don't panic during your Scott Fish Bowl drafts. I mean, you want to shoot for the stars, but also, like I said before, avoid the falling knife. I've also been burnt in the past with going too rookie heavy, especially in those later rounds. And I noticed I did that again as we got late now, just because you're, especially someone who does Dynasty, you start to get in the mindset of overvaluing the rookies for redraft. And I think that came out in my draft as we got through. Josh Downs is a great example. I think you brought up some really good points on Josh Downs. Even Marvin Mims doesn't have a great early path. Roshan Johnson, I got a lot of rookies there. Zay Flowers, Zach Charbonnet, Dalton Kincaid. I'm like total Dynasty rookie mode right now in July. I got to get myself out of that before going into Scott Fish Bowl.
All right.
I think I'd also say treat this, kind of like for people who play poker, like a big tournament fields. You need to be unique. You need to bring something else that anybody else isn't going to have to be able to win this.
What's the best you guys have ever placed?
Semifinals, I told you.
Last year was my first year. I made the playoffs and was out first round. So,
all right.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a big tournament.
Semifinals, out either first or second round in 2021, and then I think I made it a couple of playoff rounds last year. I don't exactly remember, but yeah.
The other thing I'll say for people watching, if you've never done it before, you're new to it, is you could go in with a mindset. You could do all these mock drafts. Every division is so different. And I went into one year where it was like 30 running backs off the board in like the first 50 picks. And it was crazy. So just every division's different. Don't think what you're seeing in your mocks is 100% going to be what you're going to get, and be open to changes in strategy based off of that.
I was definitely like starstruck the first time I did Scott Fish Bowl. I definitely am not now. I don't know if there's any. I honestly haven't even looked at my division chat. I have not participated in my division chat. Sorry, guys. I just don't. I don't chat much, but I am not intimidated. But the first year, I remember it being like kind of a big deal. I was surprised I was invited.
You see like an ESPN analyst in there or someone, and you're like, oh.
The last 3 years, I'm like, all right, like I know I'm at DLF, so I know I'm going to get invited. But I still like it. But yeah, I don't get like super obsessed with it. It's for charity, and I try to have fun.
I've got to play with like Josh Norris, who is someone that I've like looked up to in the fantasy community. I'm bumped up, right? I'm 3-4. I'm the 3 pick. Field Yates is the 4 pick, so that'll be fun this year. Kind of battling back and forth, trying to snipe each other. So
I don't think I've ever had anyone like Field Yates or something in my division. How do you get in the Scott Fish Bowl? You just apply on Twitter, but I don't think you're going to get in this year. I think they filled it all already.
They did fill, but you can pre-register, I think, already for the next one.
And you can also sign up to be a replacement for people who don't make their picks, of which there will be many, I promise you. There are every year.
There's also satellites you can play into, and they do a lot of, if you follow leagues. Ryan, do those.
Ryan MC23, and I love that.
Follow the guys that are in there.
Fish 24.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of play-in, like they'll give away for different podcasts, some like games that like if you watch their podcast, they'll do like a drawing for one of the slots and things like that. There's ways to play in that way, but just keep signing up every year. Consistency. They look at how many times you've signed up. If you haven't gotten in, it's not like Twitter followers is your only way to get in or anything like that. Get involved in the charitable aspect of it is a good way to get in as well.
Yeah, your number of Twitter followers has nothing to do with you getting on in it at all. But I appreciate everyone who watched the show. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Sign up for the Patreon if you're interested in supporting me or the channel. I love that. Fantasy Life, winning a spot through that. Sign up for the Patreon there. Don't forget, you can donate to me directly via Venmo. It's also on my Twitter at TylerFFCreator. And I have a bunch of articles coming out for DLF, which will all be posted on my Twitter. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.
Thanks a lot.